Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome for the first time if you're just joining us now. Um, so, we've had our second episode of Campaign 4. Um, I wrote down some notes so that I could keep track of everything. Uh, Brennan really kept us kind of on the edge of our seats for this one and left us with several cliffhangers, as it were. Um, so we left off at the funeral with Taisha and Hal uh, opening this box, well, specifically Taisha, um, that had a mask inside, and she got knocked out. Lost consciousness. Everyone came running upstairs to see what was wrong. Her daughter was more than a little pissed um, when she found out that her mother had been touching things she oughtn't have. Um, but after that, we got the first kind of really breaking up, doing individual things. Murray and Belair decided to take the box in question and do some research on it. Belair, Taliesin's character, being the museum curator in Dolmachiar, um, and Murray being, I think, a teacher at the Arcane College. Um, so, in their research, what they discovered was that the box is labeled with some script. Uh, it's labeled as the coffin of Oberod. So Oberod is a celestial being, uh, primarily referred to as the angel of death. When the gods died, celestials kind of went feral. We got that kind of bit of lore as they were doing their research. Um, and so there's a lot of concern with the impact of the fact that now, upon opening this box, it's now predominantly empty. So does that mean if it was the coffin of this angel of death, this Oberod, does that mean that that entity is now out in the world? And if so, what does that mean? Um, all of this prompted a great response from Marisha, which was, well, I'll be a Shaper's anus, which will probably go down in Critical Role history. Azune finds the forged glyph um, on Thiazi's body. Because remember, there was supposed to be the glyph that transported him away at the last minute and saved his life, which did not happen. So Azune is still trying to figure out, and that's Luis's character, trying to figure out how that happened and what went wrong. So what he discovered was a physically kind of cheap knockoff, but with some very qualified and adept magic. Some illusion magic, which would have been the exact thing that he was looking for if the real stone had been there. So that's concerning. Um, they were trying to determine whether it was Teor's younger brother, Sid, who kind of has a reputation of being a bit of a fuck up, who betrayed Thiazi and the plan, or this other character, Casimir, which we haven't learned a lot about, but the group seems to think that it was Casimir. Liazi, who had been their general, their commander during the Falcon's Cry rebellion, announced her retirement, that she was leaving the city and she was done. And so she turned over the tattered banner that they had held, and she's kept it in secret, kind of as a for nostalgia more than anything else, but also for history. And she decided to give it to Teor, who was very moved. But so that's what was happening there. Then we go to Wick and Tyranny, and we learn that Tyranny has two other sisters. I'm assuming I haven't seen or heard of any brothers, just the sisters. So she had Enmity, who was a bit aggressive and usually is right by Wick's grandmother's side, and then we got to meet Cruelty and Agony, and they have a conversation where it's pretty clear that the Halavar family has been corrupted, and that Wick seems to be the only one not in the know of what's actually happening with the family, and that the family has nefarious purposes or ambition, or both. And when Teor shows up to offer his services as Wick's protector for the purposes of getting close and trying to figure out what's going on with the Halavar family, the grandmother comes in, puts on her fake accent, her very posh accent, as opposed to her rather basic Cockney accent that she has in private when talking to Wick. She plays nice, and as soon as Teor leaves, because there was an accident and Teor winds up healing someone in front of people. And so Wick thinks that Teor has been sent by the light. The grandmother recognizes Teor as being more than what he seems, and she's very suspicious and basically tells Wick to get rid of him. And then she tells Wick that she feels that she's done him a disservice by basically coddling him and giving him this false narrative of what their family's all about. So she tells him he's going to be getting a promotion of sorts and to return later that night, and she will reveal all. And he takes this at face value. This confuses me a little bit because, again, Wick seems naive, and yet he clearly sees his grandmother putting on one face for the public with the affectation of her accent and her diction, and then differently when she's talking to him in private. That alone, like if your parent or your grandparent spoke a certain way, and then in private, in their own home with you, spoke a different way. I don't mean a different language. I mean a completely different affectation. Wouldn't you have some questions? I would. But Wick is just all rainbows and sparkles. Anyway, Tyranny seems to be very conflicted. I don't know whether she finds Wick's innocence and dedication endearing, or something to almost be pitied, but she seems conflicted with her sisters about what they're there to do, which still is not 100% clear. Then we fast forward to Julian, who has gone back, who's left the funeral and gone back with Lady Aranessa. Um, and we we start with him waking up in bed at a brothel with two prostitutes, one male, one female. So at this point, we know that Julian is bi. His father, General, wait, what is it? General Raymond Davanos, shows up pissed and calling Julian out. They have a very tense and strained relationship, which Brennan and Matt played beautifully. It was a lot of fun, but he blames his dad. Um, his dad mentions that he never understood why he hated Thjazi so much. He makes reference to Thjazi having saved a cousin back when they were on opposite sides and didn't need to. And the impression that I got from the conversation is that because of that, Ramond respected Thjazi, liked Thjazi. I don't know whether he wound up siding with him or just maybe going to bat for him, but there was some sort of destabilization of their house, which Julian blames Thjazi for. I mean, he's mad at his dad too, but he blames Thjazi. And he also says that he blames Thjazi for what he did to Aranessa. Now, again, I don't know if Julian once had feelings for Thjazi or for Aranessa. When he was first introduced, he was introduced as a childhood friend of Aranessa. So I don't know if this is kind of a Snape situation. If you know, you know, or what. But yeah, his dad is concerned that House Taconis is looking for Octus, and he wants Julian to acquire Octus and bring him to their house where they can have a conversation. I didn't get the impression from the conversation that Julian's father means any ill will towards Octus, but he's concerned what House Taconis is going to do. And he's not the only one. The reason that Wick's grandmother was so nervous about Taor, she talked to Wick about House Taconis and the fact that they are close allies, but that she doesn't trust them. And so she's always trying to make moves and to one up or at least stay on equal footing with House Taconis. So everyone seems real nervous about House Taconis. So Julian accepts the orders of his father, mostly because Lady Arnessa backs it up and makes the same request. So he leaves to go try to find Octus with the intent of bringing him back to Lady Arnessa and his father. Meanwhile, at the Pentevrel, which is the college where Murray works, she shows up at work to find out that 5 people, 4 professors and the dean, have been fired. Like, the government has basically come in and removed these people. And she's pissed. she's very close with the dean. They have a conversation. Whoever is going to be stepping in as his replacement is another member of the staff who Murray does not like, um, and thinks that she did it for, she's a sellout, that she did it for the money and for the position, that she's always been ambitious and less than loyal. So they're having this conversation, and the dean is telling Murray that basically the powers that be threatened to invoke a law that would make the practice of magic in any form illegal unless he steps down. If he accepts being removed, then they won't implement this law. And of course, Murray thinks this is crazy. How do you have a magic school when you can't cast magic? And they're saying you can study the history and how it works without practical applications. And so that's the real reason that the dean has accepted this. And as they're having this conversation, Lord Primus Taconus shows up. Now, I can't remember if he actually says he's Octus's father, or like an uncle, or if he's just the head of the household. But he shows up and wants to know where the fuck Octus is. Octus is also a student at the Pentevral. But of course he's not there, unbeknownst to them. And so he's looking for Octus and wants answers, and that's pretty much where they left us on that front. So we don't know. Meanwhile, an extremely ambitious lord named, I think, they said it several times. I think it's Einfassen. It sounds German, but I don't know. He arrives at the barracks, to where the knights are, where Azune is stationed, and announces that he's taking command. I mean, not in those words. He's very charming. He, butters Azune's ass all about how they would like to put more resources towards, his troops and his squad and what he does, and take it from other places that are less necessary, and is just blowing smoke up Azune's ass. And Azune sees it, and he recognizes that this guy is dangerous and ambitious and ruthless, and basically just told him, I'm your new boss. Meanwhile, Thimble with Octus and Cadigan decide to head to Caravan Hill to question Casimir about what the fuck happened with the plan to save Thiazi. So I don't know what's going to happen when Julian goes to look for Octus, or where he's going to start looking for Octus. The last time I think he saw Octus was at Hal's house at the funeral. So they all took off to go question, and Octus has disguised himself. Now, I don't know. I mean, they're all third level, so I'm not sure exactly what the overall ability of Octus is compared to, someone like Primus looking for him. Julian, I think he can probably get away with. So they all go to basically this den of thieves, this Mos Eisley kind of setting, to talk to Casimir. and Laura botched her role. She was trying to, I think it was a persuasion. Yeah, it was a persuasion role. And she was trying to convince him to, like, parlay, basically. It did not go well, and that's where Brennan left us there with Kaz and his men starting an attack, and all of them had to roll initiative. And that's where he left us. And then he brought us back to Wick and his grandmother and being told the truth. And we didn't know how much of that was going to be the case. So they bring him down into this mechanism, or what he believes to be this mechanism. Wick believes that the mechanism takes the energy, the light of their faith and distills it into a physical manifestation that he calls filament. And he has tattoos on his face that are living filament in his skin. And it's what allows him to do a lot of his magic. So filament is important, and the accident that Teor had to rescue someone from earlier that day was due to filament being spilled. And apparently it's quite toxic if it just spills on the average person. So he goes down. Tyranny is with him. He goes down into this chamber, and he's brought in beyond any point that he had been to previously, deeper in. And he sees this huge cavernous room with what looks like a sarcophagus that I think Brennan described as like 40 feet tall. So this is not at all like the smaller box that we found earlier for Oberod, who, by the way, I don't think I mentioned, was a halfling, so smaller. Anyways, so he goes into this space, and his father, who we saw briefly at the execution, who is always blindfolded, we find out why. He takes the blindfold off, and just beams of light pour forth to open this sarcophagus. And then he puts the blindfold back on. And we see this 40-foot celestial bound with, as Brennan described it, horrific tubes going into him. He's being tortured and bled. And that is the filament. The demons, Tyranny's sisters, or at least I think Enmity is the only one present at this point other than Tyranny, seems delighted by this whole thing. And Wick's grandmother says, "I'd like you to meet your grandfather." And that's where Brennan left us there. To which Sam just kind of looks at the the camera and is like, "Wait, what? No, more." So, we have learned that Wick is descended from a celestial, but little else. Like, I'm not sure how far that corruption goes. Like, obviously, it's bad. I don't know if she's going to be honest and tell Wick all the truth, or if she's just going to reveal enough. And just before she revealed this horrific sight, she said to him that she had been dishonest throughout his life about a number of different things, but that the one thing that was absolutely true was her love for him. I don't know if she meant that or not. I don't know if that was a manipulation. At this point, I just don't know. As far as lore in this episode, we learned there was a name that I missed. The god of war, the shaper of the orcs, was named, and I'm going to try to get it next time and put it in. But for right now, what we've got is the god of the sun, Cancel, who Brennan referred to as a false god. I'm not entirely sure what that means. And Salandri, the god of life, shaper of the elves, who made the stone that Valus is there to find. We saw some interaction with Valus. Not a whole lot. She talked about her desire to get her stone back. Her and Thimble kind of had a moment where Thimble accused her of sending the people who attacked her and took the stone. She denied that, said that she had nothing to do with that. Thimble told her that she didn't know where the stone was, but who took it. So Valus is on board to want to find these people as well. The other bit of lore that we learned was that the entities, the creatures, the beings that predated Araman's 7 shapers, their gods, were the Fae, demons, and giants. Those are the 3. I don't know if there were more, but those are the 3 that he specifically named. So my questions going forward are the hollow bars knowingly working with demons, and how will Wick react to all this? Is Primus Octus's father? Is he angry or concerned or both? And, with Hal, Azane, and Taisha staying in Dolmakiar, what's next for them? Teor, too. It's going to be interesting. Tal's character, Bolaire, is incredibly interesting. He's worried about this thing that they've found and the implications of finding this coffin. Murray, I don't know what to make of Murray yet. At first, I really didn't like the character. I mean, Marisha's nailing it, but she seems a bit unfeeling, or so I thought. And as soon as she got to the Penteveral and you got to see something that she cares about, you see more of that humanity coming through. But she's not giving up either. So I don't know whether she's going to stay in the city or try to go outside of the city to fight what's happening to her friends and the university. But yeah, it's getting crazy. So we have 2 more episodes of the overture, as Brennan is calling it, getting to know everybody, seeing the relationships, how things are going to go, what tensions and challenges are going to arise. And then after that, we're not always going to have a full cast. We'll focus on a table, maybe two. We'll hop around whoever's available. I don't know if they're also going to be bringing in like guest stars as NPCs. Who knows? But Brennan is killing it. They're all doing a really good job. The interactions are getting more intense, and we've already got a great cliffhanger. So, yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what happens next. Let me know what you guys think so far. Um, have you been watching along? Who's your favorite characters? What are some of your theories? What questions you have that I didn't bring up? Yeah. All right, guys. We will see you next time. Until then, is it Thursday yet?